Welcome back to the Groupthink Podcast. This
the Groupthink Podcast. Oh, sorry.
We don't do that anymore for
every time.
Obvious reasons. Is it not obvious?
I still think it has a ring to it.
That's a shame. So this is a special, I guess, after-hours edition of Fox Valley Film Critics, because you just got done with a 13-hour car ride.
That is correct.
Oh, ye poor lost soul.
Well, the things we do for the sandwich fair.
Yeah, this is your priority in life. This is important now.
Honestly, it is.
Hold on one second. Sorry about
Sorry.
that. Either there was a connection issue or my cable was having problems. I'm not sure which one it was.
That's okay. I went downstairs, so maybe that'll help as well.
Don't move for like an hour.
No, dear.
Anyway, so
I make myself comfortable at least.
So I wanted this to be our unofficial controversy episode of Fox Valley Film Critics, because there's been a lot going on in the last 2 months that has been unacknowledged on my part. And so now, long after its relevance, seems like a great time to capitalize. So
True. And of all your friends, we all know that I am the most controversial.
Oh, yeah, frick, I should have gotten Tom. Anyway.
That's okay, I'll play the part.
Anyway, so I guess I don't know what the proper order we should go through these in, but I guess the best one to start with might be MoviePass.
Alright. That one affected me personally.
Well, yeah, so this is going to be a little, I guess this is we're going to have a bit of a Siskel and Ebert thing, because I have not canceled my MoviePass yet.
I have.
So yes, I guess this is, as of the state of things, MoviePass is semi-solvent, which right after the weekend that Mission Impossible Fallout came out, their service started crashing, and the website and the providers of the website decided that they weren't going to be obvious about what was going on, so they're thousands of their fan base dropped out from them, including AJ, and I'm still holding out because I think MoviePass is awesome and I want them to succeed.
Well, I do as well, but when you get practically daily updates changing the system, it's just not trustworthy and not worth my money. At least now, once they kind of get a more solid business plan and more dependability, then I'll look into checking back in. But right now, especially as a college student, I got to be kind of careful with where I'm spending my money. And right now, I don't think MoviePass is a good investment.
I mean, I guess. I mean, if as someone who likes movies, and is in college, I wish I had MoviePass back then, because that would have been tremendously helpful to saving money. But because I saw a lot of movies, but obviously,
well, I mean, yeah, I just tend to wait until they come out on Blu-ray or something like that. Or there's a Dollar Theater here in Lynchburg, or undisclosed location, it used to be a Dollar Theater. Now it's like $2 or $3 inflation. But so like if a movie's out for like 2 or 3 weeks, it'll go there.
Okay.
So it's just it takes patience, but it's worth it, I think, for the money you save.
Yeah, I can see the benefit of that. I mean, one of the reasons I love MoviePass so much was that for a while they were covering the Music Box in Chicago, and I saw 2 or 3 films there with MoviePass, so that was that was a great deal. Now they don't cover anything there, but weirdly they recently picked up the landmark Century Cinema, which is also downtown, so I can go see art films there now, and because they have e-ticketing, I can see almost anything there.
Oh, okay.
I will say that the one thing I still really appreciate about MoviePass is that they make exceptions for a few movie theaters that require you to book seating beforehand. Those theaters, they'll let you see basically any movie, but there's not that many of them. But there's 2 or 3 within an hour's driving distance of me. So as for my evil purposes, I'm perfectly fine with this.
Yeah, and there's nothing around me like that, so it doesn't exactly behoove me.
Yeah, e-ticketing is more of a, like, I'm not going to say upscale. Probably like a major metropolis thing, I think.
Sure. So yeah, it sucks because for 9 months or so, I was just taking full advantage of MoviePass, and probably one of the reasons why it imploded as fast as it did. But
you specifically.
Yeah, I was, and was I the one that recommended it to you, or had you?
You did actually, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I was full on board. I was telling everyone I could because I knew it wasn't going to last, but while it did, it was the best thing ever.
Here's the thing about the statistics for MoviePass. They actually, I don't know who released it, but someone, I think it was an essay by Nerdwriter on YouTube. He found the statistics that in order for MoviePass to be profitable, the people seeing it have to see an average of 1.5 or less movies a month, and people were seeing it over the rate. People were going there. The average person who has MoviePass was going there more than the one to 1.5 times a month.
Of course.
Their idea, I guess, was that there are a lot of people out there that only attend a few movies a year, and then those people might be willing to put money down on MoviePass and then not use it frequently, which is a strange miscalculation on their part.
That's banking on people being foolish.
Well, that's not.
Which in many cases is a safe bet, but
exactly
in this case it didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit there were times I was not using MoviePass to its full potential, and I was fine keeping the MoviePass when I wasn't seeing movies a lot, just because I liked the service. But
I mean, sure, there'd be a week or two where I wouldn't see it, but I'd still say I averaged probably 3 movies a month.
I mean, I don't even think I went to the movies in April just because I was so crazy busy. So
yeah,
that's not true. I saw The Quiet Ones and I saw Avengers, The Quiet Place and Avengers, but that was really all I saw for like a month, and I didn't see either one using the MoviePass. So, and
that's another reason that I dropped it, is now my schedule has just picked up exponentially. So even if I was paying, I wouldn't be getting my money's worth because I just wouldn't have the time.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up something I wanted to discuss with MoviePass. Is the constantly shifting pricing model, or the model of how they ticket movies.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got the app, the basic deal was unlimited movies and very few restrictions. It was kind of too good to be true. So
absolutely was.
Over the last couple months, they've been prior to the July failure, they'd been trying various methods of trying to police the audience in mild ways. So they did, for a while they were doing ticket verification. For a while they were doing I think they were threatening limited availability for a while. And then everything just fell apart, and they started pulling all of these last-minute schemes of trying to figure out a way to reorient the app. So one was only a maximum of 3 movies a month, which was the worst possible idea. Then they did...
Is that not what's still happening?
I
thought that was what they settled on.
I don't know. If that's well, I think it's 3 movies a month, and then every additional movie is $5. But
right. Or somewhere around there, depending on the theater.
Yeah, I mean that's still technically a savings, but it's not by much.
Right.
And then currently they have something interesting that I kind of like. That is, they cycle through the same 10 movies once or twice a week on a schedule, and you can only see them on those specific days, as a means of trying to kind of corral the viewers just to go to see. So if you want to see a specific movie, you have to see it on a specific day. Which, if that were
a couple major problems with that, which you may have been about to point out, but I'll be just a bunch. 2 major problems, 2, in my eyes, obvious problems, is one, if a schedule doesn't allow, somebody's going to miss a movie that they probably very much wanted to see. So like for example, this actually happened. I wanted to see Crazy Rich Asians before my MoviePass subscription went out, because I had like a month after I canceled it, and I wanted to see it, and it just never worked out with my schedule, so I wasn't able to. I imagine many other people are running into that as well. And also, the other major problem with that is, who's deciding the movies?
It's probably either a gamble or they're making calculated guesses to make the most expensive movies on inopportune days, that would be my assumption. But here's the thing, though. I'm willing to accept that as a proposed business model if they're very up forward and honest about it. Because the whole deal was, hey, we'll get you into a couple movies per month for free, but there's severe restrictions because we have to make money. Like, that would be fine. But they sold their model on any movies you want, as many as you want, for the same price. And now that they're cutting back on that, it's destroying their model. But so on its own, I don't necessarily mind the thing, because last week I was looking into the Peppermint movie. And I just looked at the app and it said, okay, they're playing Peppermint on Sunday and on Wednesday. And I thought, okay, do I want to go on either of those days? And so in that sense, I don't necessarily mind them doing that, because I can at least look at the schedule and say, what is it a week from now? What are they offering? And can I make my schedule work around that? But that's not it's not convenient, and it's not what they sold me when I bought MoviePass.
Exactly. And especially in July, when everything hit the fan, they were trying this, that, and the other thing to keep themselves afloat. And this was immensely frustrating to me, they would change something drastically, and then maybe a day or two later send you an email saying, all right, this is what we did. Hope you're okay with it.
Well, that was
and I'm like, no, I'm most certainly not okay with it.
Well, that was during the 2 weeks of panic right after the crash, where they were just desperately throwing every possibility to the wall. It was like, okay, what's gonna keep the profits up? What's gonna keep the profits up? What's gonna keep the profits up? And they weren't informing their base through email what's going on.
And that's what lost me. And I think it lost a lot of other people.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're never going to gain me back. If I keep hearing good things again, I'm willing to try it again, because I love movies. But as of now, they really screwed themselves.
I will admit, I'm very tempted to try the AMC version of it. Have you heard of their program?
I have, yeah, but there's not an AMC around me, so it doesn't. Yeah. I haven't looked into it seriously, but yes, I definitely heard about it.
It's $20 a month, and you get 3 movies a week. Plus, they give you like concessions discounts. But you can only use it at AMC theaters, which isn't bad, because AMC curates really well.
And AMC is quite expensive, so $20 is pretty decent.
Oh yeah, that's like a ticket and a half.
Yeah, if you see 2 movies plus concessions, it's worth it.
Yeah, and 3 movies, and that's like 12 movies a month for free, if you take full advantage of it.
Yeah, even in my prime MoviePass days, I don't think I ever saw more than 3 movies a week, so that's pretty ideal.
The brilliant thing about that is that it takes advantage of the theatrical model a little bit well. Like, I remember I used to work at a movie theater, and one of the things that they told us was that theaters don't make money off of admission. They make money off of concessions. So if a theater discounts the admission and takes on that burden itself, and it then gets people in and gets them to buy discounted concessions, which I worked the concession booth for a while. The theaters like to pretend like they're selling a hot commodity, but they're selling cheap stuff. They're going to make their money back instantly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, they make an insane profit on concessions. I personally don't get concessions very often unless I'm, in desperate times. But a discount would definitely make it consider.
I get concessions when I really want to see the movie, because that doesn't kind of benefits the experience. Like, I'm going to get concessions this Thursday for The Predator.
Okay. Hold on real quick. You might have to cut this out. My sister's coming home.
Cut what now?
Here, I'll call you. My sister just got home. I'll call you back in a second.
Hello?
Sorry, I thought you...
Okay. Are you going or staying? Hello and welcome to the Tyler Show. You're listening to Tyler in the Morning. And I don't know what the heck I'm saying. I don't know how long he's going to be gone, but I don't feel like editing this out, so I'm going to entertain you. So I guess I'll talk about something I'm working on right now. I am going to be starting an essay channel, hopefully, in the near future. I have everything I need to do it. I have my own editing suite at home, which helps a lot. I don't have everything I could use, but I have enough that I could do essays on my own, and I'm going to be starting with my definitive thoughts on Star Wars The Last Jedi, which is interesting because there's been a lot of really interesting criticism about that. I want to talk about this later in the podcast with AJ, but there's been a lot of tough back and forth on the internet from people who are both for and against it. I've read both sides. I like a lot of the people on both sides of the issue, and I respect a lot of their opinions. I don't know. I don't think I'm probably going to get a positive feedback from it, but I'd like to just kind of have my opinions out there and be able to say what I think. And if that gets me called a fanboy, or if I get some sort of 5-hour dissection of my opinion, I will accept it as such, and I'm fine with that. I just like I like the movie. I want to talk about it, and if you're one of the few souls who unfortunately has seen this podcast before, or seen the Fox Valley Film Critics, you probably know that I do like the movie. And I don't know why you would know that. There's only 5 people who watch both of those things. But if you're one of those poor souls, you know that. You know that how I feel about that. Man, I really don't know where AJ is. I'm going to go ahead and just look at my phone for a second. So it's a lovely Monday. Only good things are happening right now in the world, as they always are. We just released the newest episode of Fox Valley Film Critics this weekend. I don't remember which one it was. Oh, it was the Meg. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Hey, man.
Hey, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. You just made me... I probably just lost all of the viewer who had to listen to my ramblings for 2 minutes.
Was this live?
I didn't stop recording. I mean, I'm not...
Wait, I'm confused.
I'm editing. I'm going to edit it later, but...
Oh, okay.
I don't feel like going through this with a fine-tooth comb and editing everything out.
That's fine. I'm sorry about that. I thought my sister was gone for the night, but she came back.
You live with your sister?
I do.
Okay. So
for financial reasons.
I think we've exhausted MoviePass, although the last thing I'll say on it is if something bad happens, I'm switching over to AMC.
Yeah. If there was an AMC near me, I would do the same.
Yeah. So, next big topic of controversy. The Oscars!
Oh man. I missed the most recent development. I hadn't had a chance to look into that.
Well, what's changed since... Well, the big thing that happened about a month ago was that they revealed the most popular film category. Well, what's changed since then? I didn't know there was another development in that.
Just a few days ago, I saw, and like I said, hadn't had a chance to look into it, that they're delaying that.
They're not.
It won't be this Oscars. I believe it won't be until next year's. So the 2019 year. So the 2020 Oscars.
I like how they just delayed it. It's like there's going to be the 2019 Oscars. Oh, did you mean that? Oh, I meant it for the Oscars for the year 2019. Like, that's such a cheap.
But I don't know. I don't think that's. I don't know if that's how they did it. But I think they saw the backlash and they were like, okay, we'll give you time to marinate in. And I don't know. It's entirely possible because of the massive backlash that they will just do away with it and never give it.
It was clearly an entirely cynical thing to do. Like, they clearly did it specifically because they knew there were going to be big movies that they were going to get in trouble if they didn't win Oscars this year. So they're like, oh, what happens? What happens if Black Panther doesn't win Best Picture because we're all old crows that don't like superhero movies?
Well, okay, there was no shot of it winning Best Picture. People wanted a nomination.
There's a shot of Black Panther being among the best films of this year, and I would argue it's at least in the top. I would say it's within the top 10 at the moment.
It's not in my personal top 10 for the year, but for a lot of people it is, and I acknowledge that for just the third act.
Be careful
really
Be careful what ground you tread upon, innocent sir.
I have massive respect for its cultural impact, and the characters in it are flawless. Well, I mean, never mind.
How dare you say they're flawless? They're complicated characters with unique problems.
That's what I meant. They're flawlessly created. And I appreciate that. However, it really drops the ball in the third act.
For the sake of discussion, we'll leave the quality of Black Panther aside.
Sure.
It could have been nominated for an Oscar. It's clear that they created that category so they can just give it to movies like Black Panther or Wonder Woman or Get Out or something that's culturally significant that the Oscars would never give an award to.
Well, Get Out did get nominated, deservingly so. Far more so than Black Panther or Wonder Woman, if you ask me.
And Get Out got snubbed at the Oscars, really. All it won was...
that's writing.
Yeah, but that's not really... That's a good Oscar to get, but it's not one of the big 2 or 3 that it should have gotten.
Oh, I think it was pretty major and a huge accomplishment.
Sure, it deserved more than it got. So did a lot of movies that I liked last year, like Phantom Thread, which only got like the costume degree, bizarrely.
Well, and again, deservedly so.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, but last year was a very good year for movies.
Yeah, it is. I've talked about that a few times, but again.
Yeah, I remember early in the year you commenting on that. I was like, man, that's so early to tell. He's crazy. And then it just kept going on. I was like, well, dang it, Tyler's got a point.
And this year it's just been not bad, but
I haven't seen anything great yet.
I've seen
a lot of good things.
I'll give you a bit of a heads thing. I started assembling my my paper list of favorite movies this year, so I kind of have about a dozen movies at the moment that I've loved. So at the moment, in no particular order, so it doesn't reveal my actual order at the moment. Isle of Dogs, Searching, Mission Impossible Fallout, Annihilation, 8th Grade, Won't You Be My Neighbor, The Death of Stalin, You Were Never Really Here, Black Klansman was really, really good. The Quiet Place is really, really good. There's been a good handful of movies this year, but they're almost all indie films.
True. Well, that's not uncommon. Yeah, I just compare last year where February and March back to back, I had my top 2 movies, Get Out and Logan, and that was very early in the year.
Yeah, I mean, last year had the benefit of all the big studio movies being, except for like Pirates of the Caribbean being above average. So,
there were I think other ones that failed. Didn't the Transformers Last Night come out that year?
Well, that there's no question that was going to be not good. I mean, like anything that had the opportunity to be good was better than it should have been. And then we got
again. I think that's.
And we got great stuff on the side, like Phantom Thread. So.
Like what?
And then we got great like indie movies like Phantom Thread and Get Out. So.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I want
to
keep on...
really...
What?
You really like Phantom Thread. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. I really like that movie. Funny thing is I showed it to a couple of my female friends, and they had the complete opposite reaction. Not because they didn't think it was a good movie, because they like hit way too close to home. It was like depressing and amusing at the same time, because normally I enjoy torturing people with movies, and they were just like, no, don't do that. I'm just like, oh, this isn't the fun kind of torture.
Is there another kind?
The fun kind. Wait, I think I misunderstood that question.
Yeah, never mind. I was quoting a movie.
I want to keep this in relatively online, because there's still 2 more discussion topics I want to discuss.
Apologies.
I mean, I don't know what else there's to say about the Oscars other than it's dumb, and it's very clearly cynical.
Yeah, and I forget what the other 2 announcements were, because there were like 3 or 4 announcements they made, but the major one was the best popular film, which I think was across the board maligned.
I saw people on Twitter being like, "This is the death of cinema right here. This is the death of cinema having any sort of meaning or ability to like be relevant in any sort of way." Because it literally.
Well, I mean, I don't want to rock your world right now, but I think people on Twitter have a tendency to overstate things.
I have heard an interesting argument for the idea of the death of cinema. That is, one of my favorite writers is a religious writer who does a lot of thriller writing named Andrew Klavan, and he had an interesting point on when you know an art form is dying, and he said an art form is dying when the body leaves the soul, and in this case he means when the id of the art form departs from the intellectual side of the art form. So cinema was at its best when it could make great, thematically complex films that were also entertaining and that people watched. Nowadays, those 2 things are almost exclusively mutual. Either they're intellectual indie films or they're big studio blockbusters. There is some crossover, but it's not to the point where you get something like The Godfather or Raging Bull, or Casablanca, or a movie of that scope that's both intelligent and fun to watch.
I think you might be looking at cinema history through rose-colored glasses. Throughout cinema, there have been bad blockbusters.
Yes, I mean, obviously the first half century of filmmaking was 2/3 westerns. There's no disagreement that like there's been bad stuff the whole way. My only argument is just that when it comes to the upper echelon, you do see a bit of a departure. Like last year, there have been some good examples of movies that do break this. Like I would say Get Out definitely qualifies as that. I would say
Logan even.
Yeah, maybe Logan.
Contrary to Ethan Hawke's point of view.
What? I don't care. I mean, I didn't care. Like everyone, remember earlier this year when James Cameron was making all those comments about Wonder Woman and superhero movies and stuff?
Yeah.
Like everyone's just like, he's so out of touch. What does he know? And I'm just like, you care too much. Why do you care? Like I don't.
James Cameron or the people?
The people who are like, James Cameron is an old sexist he's not in touch with what people need nowadays in the current year. I'm just like, Well,
they care because he's still making movies.
He's still making Avatar movies.
Well, he's still trying to.
Yeah, that's the question right there. But But
that's another topic as well.
I mean, maybe here's some. This is going to be something I'm going to talk about at some point in depth. But I've learned really well in life that you need to be able to separate a person's good opinions from a person's bad opinions, and that you can play around mentally with something even if you disagree with someone, which is why
absolutely.
That.
I said absolutely. I agree with you.
Which is why that comment didn't bother me, because James Cameron has made good feminist movies that are entertaining and that have had a huge impact. And if he doesn't like the way modern filmmakers are doing it, that's fine. It's not like he's about to change. He's gonna like change the industry behind the scenes and suddenly force everyone to become Sarah Connor clones.
Well, I mean, he's revolutionized movies before. He has a lot of influence.
Yeah, but he's also a has-been to a degree. So I don't think he has the clout to really change.
I think people were saying that in 2009, before a little movie came out called Avatar, which is still the highest-grossing movie.
Yes, but how often do people talk about Avatar anymore?
It doesn't matter. It's still tops the charts.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it that, but I don't think he's ever gonna have the cred that he used to when he was doing like Terminator and Aliens, like that back during his heyday.
Well, no, because movies have changed, and he's departed from that as well.
Okay,
but I'm
gonna go ahead and borrow.
He's earned enough credibility, I think, through multiple moves he's made, whether that be Terminator, whether that be Titanic, whether that be Avatar. He comes back with a vengeance. I don't think you can ever count James Cameron out.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and use one of your clever and horrifying transitional topics. Speaking of flawed men with bad opinions, James Gunn. Which is, are you okay?
Wait, what? Why did I get credited with a bad transition?
I was re-listening to our Oscars discussion over the weekend. And
yeah, I remember that.
There are 2 to 3 really bad ones, which I will hold you to account to.
No, I freely admit those were bad. I mean, they were partially said because of how bad they were.
It's really about family. That's what it's about.
All right. that one was unintentional.
I haven't laughed that hard since. I thank you for that.
You're welcome. I aim to please.
So, speaking of things I didn't laugh at, the firing of James Gunn, which is our third discussion topic for tonight. Have you seen? So I think this is a weirdly complicated situation that is complicated by the fact that there really isn't any sort of like definite victim to the situation, other than maybe arguably James Gunn himself. So, like, how aware are you of the whole situation?
Decently so. I mean, I'm not a part of it, but I've heard about it from a few sources. Okay.
There are a couple like strains of thought on it, and I've generally stayed out of the politics of it, but like there's a lot of people that drag that in because it is relevant, but I also think it's less relevant than people think who are arguing about this issue think it is. So there's
politics usually are.
Yeah. So the deal was that James Gunn was running his mouth on Twitter about a political issue, and guy by the name of Mike Cernovich goes and digs up all of these decade-old tweets where he was consistently making pedophilia and rape jokes and at one point they found photos on his blog of him at a party dressed as a Catholic priest in what was in some sort of bizarre really dark theme party. And within a day of all this of these coming out, he was fired abruptly from Disney and basically told that he's never coming back on the lot again. And it quickly started this bizarre reaction where people were left to kind of grapple with whether he should have been fired. What are the implications of like the free speech implications of James Gunn losing the right to do this? Who was actually being victimized by the tweets? It wasn't anyone victimized, and some people are going as far as accusing him of being a pedophile, which there is no evidence of that he was. And then people who are fans of his, who agree with his politics, started accusing all of the people that started digging up all this information of being Nazis and of being like disingenuously digging all this up, which I thought was irrelevant because he left all this out there for anyone to find, and anyone could have found it, and anyone did find it, and clearly this was all just waiting for a moment to boil up, and obviously it did. And there's a lot of hot takes you can make on the whole situation, and there's a lot of fascinating consequences too that really haven't been resolved as of yet, even a month and a half after everything went down.
Well, and also the cast got involved.
That's another shade of this. The whole cast basically came to his defense.
Wrote an official letter.
Yeah.
And Dave Bautista especially has been outspoken.
Oh, Bautista's just raging. Sad / frustrating thing is that it's put the third movie like completely into question. Like, they've a month and a half out. Well, obviously it's not the primary question of this. I don't want just like, is there going to be Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to be the major question that comes out of this controversy, because obviously a man's entire reputation has been dragged through the mud. Maybe fairly, maybe unfairly. It's not entirely clear, and there's a lot of principles on both sides that I think are getting dragged through the mud as everyone's just arguing about this. I don't like the fact that people who generally I've seen online will say free speech no matter what are suddenly turning on James Gunn and saying like, oh, well, this is crossing the line. I'm like, well, he didn't actually commit anything. He just made bad jokes. And I don't see what kind of action you can provably think he's done other than the accusation that he might have done something.
Well, and also, yeah, that's very flimsy. And also, people need to remember that this wasn't a government decision, which free speech is a part of. This is a company that fired an employee.
Well, yeah, obviously. Well, there's an interesting debate right now going on about like free speech in terms of corporate interference, because obviously there was the whole Alex Jones getting banned off every single app at the same day thing that happened a couple weeks ago, which I'm not an Alex Jones fan, so I don't feel super warm about him, but obviously he didn't technically do anything wrong to warrant it, and so it opened up a whole bunch of strange debates about do corporations have the right to go behind your backs and do stuff like this. And obviously, it's not obviously that's not pertinent to James Gunn, because this was him being terminated from a single contract, and it's clear that he's going to probably get more work after this from somewhere else.
I liken it to blocking somebody on Twitter. That's their decision. If they don't like what the person is saying, it's their prerogative to block them from their life and their other followers.
Do you think Disney didn't know about this?
I don't know. I think probably. I'm sure they do deep Twitter dives. I don't know why they wouldn't.
I'm almost certain that they sent some intern to do a deep Twitter dive on James Gunn early in the process, because all of this happened. Well, he got hired in September of 2012. And his last tweets on the subject and his apology for all of them was earlier that year. So a lot of everything that went down, like all the Guardians movies came out after he was going through that phase.
Right. I mean, there's many cases of something not being made a big deal of until it's brought to the attention of the public.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear that Disney really knee-jerk reacted to this, because I mean, it's probable that someone lower on the totem pole knew and didn't care, and then the moment the guys at Disney found out, they freaked out. Like, that could very well be the process. Maybe Disney itself wasn't caring, and then they found out, which would be very strange if that actually was the case, because obviously Disney's the one that probably does the research, but Marvel was the one that picked them. So it's really not clear what happened in all of this, like where all the lines are drawn, and people are making huge judgments based off of not a lot of information and a lot of prejudgments about what they think is happening and what they think James Gunn actually deserves.
That's the internet now.
It's absolutely horrifying.
I think, but I think James Gunn will be fine. He'll find other work with other companies.
Here's a fascinating thing. Supposedly, he was about to announce a movie the day that everything went down. Like he had shot a horror movie for Sony, and I don't know if this is actually the true or not, because he had been at San Diego Comic-Con to announce something, but it didn't happen because of everything that went down. So it's possible that like there's an outstanding James Gunn movie that might be waiting in the wings right now for all this to cool down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is going to be really weird if that doesn't get announced or doesn't get released. That'd be weird too, because obviously whatever he did, they probably spent millions of dollars on it. But
yeah, and I mean, jokes are so subjective. The thing is, he put them in a public place for public people to see. And maybe those were jokes that maybe got laughs with his close friends. And he basically invites any and all reactions he gets once he publishes that to the public. So I think what happened is inevitable.
Especially since these are obviously like nasty in-jokes that are just getting exposed to a broad audience.
Right, and they could have been like. I don't like to criticize anybody's sense of humor. I myself have a dark sense of humor, and I laugh at things that I probably shouldn't. I'll be honest, some of the things he said were somewhat clever, not like laugh out loud funny, but like
one or two
you
of
breathe,
them.
exhale out your. But the majority of them, especially when you stack them together, are off color at best.
Yeah,
but I don't think he should be publicly. I don't think it's enough to ruin his career, and I think studios will see that as well. And I think what you said is what's going to happen. They're just going to wait for this to blow over, and then he's going to keep on working. He'll be fine. Not with Disney, and that's okay.
The worst thing that could possibly happen after this would be if James Gunn became a partisan director. Like, if suddenly seeing James Gunn movie became a political statement, that would be the worst possible outcome for him, I think.
I'm sure he's got one in him, but I don't think he'll make a career out of it.
No, I mean, that's not what I mean. Like, if that movie does come out, like, later this year, like that whatever movie he was going to announce, if that movie does come out this year or late next year, if all of the people that were castigating Mike Cernovich, rightly or wrongly, come out and say, go see this movie and make those Nazis shut up. And or if James Gunn steps up and says, let's get back at all those Nazis that ruined my career and support me, just imagine just how much that would just utterly like turn not only his that movie, but all of his previous movies into like partisan deals. Like that would be, I think that would be like the worst situation for everyone. I think.
It's definitely a possibility. I hadn't thought of that, but I can easily see it happening.
Like that was part.
I don't think James Gunn personally would spearhead it. I think and hope he's above that. but there are definitely people out there that would.
He's one of those
take
people
up his cause for him.
He's one of those entertainers that when he's working on his art, he doesn't speak out about stuff, but when he's on Twitter, he just rambles. So if you find his Twitter account, he was talking about like wonkish politics constantly. So it's not hard to imagine he could have just kind of turned the dial one or two bits and made a really political movie. But I mean, and I think part of the reason, for a while, there was like a 2 or 3 week period where the rumors were that Disney was having him back on the lot and discussing with them the possibility of coming back, or at least the possibility of resolving some sort of legal issue with the movie after he was fired. And for there were a couple weeks it looked like Disney might actually go ahead and rehire him, but at this point it's probably very unlikely.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I think they're past the point of no return.
Yeah, it would have been within a month or two, and at this point we're going on 2 months that he's been fired.
Yeah, and I think that the choices they've made are irreversible.
Well, here's the thing: they haven't made a choice. Like, the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at this point isn't going to be coming out when they promised it would be. It's going to be delayed.
No, but firing him was a choice.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying
you're not allowed back on the lot is a choice.
They haven't. I'm just worried that they don't know what to do going forward. Like you recall when they fired Edgar Wright, they had a new director within a week. They don't have someone lined up. They don't have someone lined up to replace him, which means that either they don't know what they're going to do next, or no one wants to direct Guardians 2 or Guardians 3.
I think with a corporation as big as Disney is, they have contingency plans. I think part of it right now is to wait until things die down. I think they can afford to postpone Guardians 3. They've got enough other things in the works. I don't think this is a priority for them right now.
They'll probably move up another project to that day. Like they'll probably just move a project that was going to come out in July that year up to May, just to kind of fill the slot. I mean, for a while I thought that they were going to have their next big slate announcement within the next month and a half, because if you recall the 2014 announcement of all the Phase 3 Marvel films came out the fall before Age of Ultron, and we are at the fall before Avengers 4. So I think that we're going to be getting some sort of major announcement in the next month or two. But if Guardians 3 isn't on the table, that's going to raise some questions.
With now that the Guardians are in other franchises as well, the crossovers, I think that also participates in not needing Guardians 3 to be fast-tracked. I think they can take their time with it, and I think they should.
Well, I think part of the deal was supposed to be that Guardians 3 was going to be the jumping-off point for all the cosmic movies, so they could start doing, like, a whole different line of different movies set in space with different characters.
I think Captain Marvel is going to do that. I think Guardians 3 might have followed up on it.
Well, because remember
they've already got 2 Guardians films to build off of.
Well, yeah. Well, remember
the cosmic universe is established by now.
Recall how many post-credit scenes Guardians 2 had. There were a lot of story threads that they set up in those credit scenes.
Yeah, it was excessive and stupid.
They set up a potential villain arc with Adam Warlock. They set up a continuing issue with the Gold People. They set up another team movie with Sylvester Stallone. Like there's a lot of places they could take, like, the space movies going forward if they decide to follow all those threads, which I don't know if they will. They might just play it off as a joke and never address any of it again. But like there are places they could go. And
I don't think post-credit scenes have the same relevance that they did in Phase 1.
It depends on like what the context of it is. Like, obviously Howard the Duck was a farce, but Like they weren't going to bring Howard the Duck back as a main character with its own movie. He was just going to show up in other movies as a cameo. But when they tease like a big character or another team movie like they did with those post-credit scenes, I think those are sincere. Like at the very least, if they were going to make them a farce and like make fun of themselves, I think they would elevate it slightly so that you could tell.
I think I feel like almost instead of setting up the next movie, they've become continuations of the movie you just watched, negating the necessity for a post-credit scene at all.
To some degree.
But yeah, we don't have to discuss the pros and cons of. We've got enough to discuss.
I have one more I think that's worth bringing up in the James Gunn issue. That is, like, the actual content of his filmography, which is interesting, especially in context. Like, how familiar with all of his films?
I've only seen The Two Guardians and Super.
Do you know what he did before Super?
Slither, right?
He did Slither, but he was also a screenwriter before that.
Oh, that's right.
He started out as a trauma guy. He started out as a trauma guy. So all of his earliest films, like Toxic Avenger and Tromeo and Juliet, and Slither to some degree, arguably...
He doesn't date back to Toxic Avenger, does he?
He didn't do the first one, but he did one of the sequels.
Oh, okay.
And he even wrote the 2 live-action Scooby-Doo films.
Ugh.
I've heard the second one's okay, but
it's not.
Well, yeah, whatever. But I don't care. But I have no strong opinions one way or the other. But
I do.
All right, but here's the thing: all of those movies, they're schlock. They're really nasty, like schlock. I don't remember which Toxic Avenger film it is, but there's a scene in the one he wrote where the Toxic Avenger fights a guy with a gun, and the way he fights him it's set in a school. He ducks behind a bunch of kids for cover, and there's tons of crap in Tromeo and Juliet, and there's tons of crap in Scooby-Doo, and there's all this nasty, mean-spirited crap in all of his old films. And one of the things that I think is really revealing about him as a director is that his recent trilogy with Super and the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies, they're all movies about growing up and growing into better people. And I think that that's something that's often lost in the discussion, is that whatever you can say about James Gunn, like, the last few years is not the same guy who made all those jokes. Whether you think that's he's sincere about it or not, I think that you can see it in his art that he's starting to figure out how to mature as a person and channel all of his impulses into something productive.
Sure, that's a good point.
I
don't. Yeah, I don't think anybody should be held to what they did or what they said 10 years ago. Maybe that might be too bold of a statement. That could be taken out of context.
If you're a politician, that's slightly different. But
well, look at Donald Trump. And I don't want to break this, but like, this isn't a topic that needs to be gone into. But just look at the things he said and the things he's saying now. They're completely different, and it's okay. People's opinions change. It's not a big deal.
You heard it here, folks. First, AJ made my podcast political.
I don't think I was the first one.
Whatever. I mean, was there anything else to say really on the James Gunn issue? Like what?
Nah, I mean, what it boils down to for me is just like, let the man live his life. We don't need. He's got enough going on I don't think he needs people rallying behind him or against him right now. So just let him be.
I will say,
leave James Gunn alone.
Leave him alone. I'll just say this, is regardless of the moral content of what he said or who revealed anything. No one's a victim in the situation. No one's been hurt. James Gunn is a multi-millionaire, and he's gonna direct another movie. At this point, the only thing that's actually been hurt is either Disney and James Gunn's reputation, regardless of what the content of anyone's actions.
And people's political feelings.
Yes, there are a lot of people who
they've been inflamed.
Yeah, a lot of people have made themselves look like idiots, jumping into making this a partisan issue.
But I mean, McDonald's could make a new burger, and people would turn it into a political thing.
Yeah, pretty much. There's clearly red and white and blue on this burger in different places. That's a political statement. It's a dog whistle.
So, I think, as is probably my conclusion with all of these topics that we're talking about today, people just need to calm down.
Are you sure you don't want to talk about The Last Jedi?
People need to calm down.
I kind of wanted to go into that more.
I'll begin with my conclusions.
Okay,
but yeah,
we don't have to go more in depth than that tonight. But I did mention you while you're gone. I'm going to be attempting to start an essay channel on YouTube, and the first thing I'm going to be discussing is The Last Jedi.
More power to you.
Yeah, I mean, I figure it's like, hey, if I'm going to start anywhere, it might as well be with the place that's going to get lots of attention and hate. Hey, what's your opinion? True. I like The Last Jedi. You're an idiot. If you have an opinion on that movie, you're wrong. I was on Twitter the other day. In someone's estimate. I was on Twitter the other day, and one of my tweets got retweeted, and I got this weird comment being like, "It's just some fanboy. I bet he likes The Last Jedi," and it was my video review of The Meg. I don't even know what the heck that even means, but
that's funny.
Oh, that's
really funny.
I was trying to think of what the best thing to say to it would be, so I just took like the Mr. Rogers pacifist route to it and being like, I'd like to think I'm not a fanboy, but you should check out my other things. Which I thought was a pretty good response, all things considered. Just I didn't even address the Last Jedi comment, but
yeah,
I'm probably gonna have a lot of those.
Yeah, I might be unaware of this. You mentioned that there's kind of rekindling of the Last Jedi debate.
In the last month, it's really picked up a lot. Like there's been consistent Last Jedi discussion for the past 9 months now. And there's a lot of YouTube channels on both sides that are getting their opinions and edgewise on that. Anti, I would say, like Dishonored Wolf, Mauler, ER. Pro, I would say Patrick H. Williams, Just Right, Lessons from the Screenplay, Movie Bob. There's a lot of people with very staunch opinions going both ways on and here's the thing, I enjoy just listening to it. Like it's fun just kind of listening to people spar about movie criticism because it's not clear that there's an obvious answer about what makes the movie loved and hated.
Well, sure, that's the beauty of film.
Yeah, and it really kind of came to a head just this past last week because do you know the channel Red Letter Media?
Yeah.
They apparently they decided
a couple of those things.
Apparently, they do that Plinkett review series, and apparently they decided that their hour-long review of The Last Jedi was going to be the last in that series. So they did an hour-long thing where they kind of just agreed with a lot of the negative opinions on the film, and then they kind of just ended it with, "Yeah, we're probably not doing another one of these reviews," and that kind of gotten the discussion rekindled because there's kind of a feeling online that Red Letter Media is the final word on a lot of things. So for a lot of fans, I guess them coming down against it was kind of like not necessarily closing the door on it, but then a lot of the pro critics started coming out again for it again and rekindling their arguments, and the people that don't like it started critiquing those arguments, and it's going back and forth constantly, and a lot of it.
That's frustrating to me that they have that following, because they're similar in my mind to CinemaSins.
I wouldn't say
everything wrong with videos, because they hate on movies to be funny, and they are funny about it, but they go over the top.
I wouldn't say
more
that's
so
fair.
Than they actually feel, I think.
I wouldn't say that's fair. I mean, I would send one or two videos your way just to kind of make you try to reconsider that, because I think that they are generally more analytical than you're giving them credit for. Like I'm on like CinemaSins being the devil, so so comparing them to that is a little bit like, I really don't like CinemaSins, but
well, they occupy the same space in my mind in that their following is because of the way that they hate on movies.
I mean, obviously there's, I forget what the term is, but there's the style of red letter media that people like. People like the that they don't take themselves that seriously, and that they kind of acknowledge that they're just random guys that suddenly became like multi-million view YouTube stars, which I kind of appreciate.
Exactly, and CinemaSins does the same.
Have you watched any of their not half in the bag, best of the worst?
I don't think so. Most red letter media videos are too long for me to really look into.
That's perfectly fair. I mean, but I like their. They have a really good series called Best of the Worst, where they sort through their bad movie collection and just watch really trashy, terrible films. Sometimes not even films. They'll just watch VHS tapes that happen to have infomercials on them. It's a really funny series where people just hang out and watch and kind of bond over bad movies. And I think that there is an appeal to what they do in that, and some of their stuff is very analytical. At other times, I find it that they tend to fall in line with a couple of their opinions at times. Like, you can usually predict who's gonna like what based on what you've heard them say before. But
yeah,
like Jay is always he's the cynical hipster that likes weird horror movies and David Lynch, and Mike is kind of just cynical about everything, and he'll like random movies for no reason. So there are times where they do fall into bad patterns, but they do get really analytical at times, and I think that that's what makes their channel interesting, at least for me. But yeah, for the sake of the Star Wars discussion, I didn't necessarily appreciate how they ultimately came down on The Last Jedi, and that wasn't because I thought that video was bad, just because I think that they just kind of towed the line. They didn't really add anything to the discussion, and it felt like them taking that stance was not that it wasn't that it was going to make the discussion worse or incomplete or anything. It just felt like that was leaving the discussion in a bad place, and if they really are ending their series on that note, I think it's a disappointing place to stop.
So you feel like they kind of copped out of an opinion?
Not that they copped out, just that I thought that was... I thought it was lazy compared to the way they used to tackle the Star Wars prequel reviews, where they would just intricately dissect the films in every single aspect and find every problem with them and explain them and dig through basic storytelling rules and just explain why everything doesn't work. And that stuff was interesting. And but even when they reviewed movies that were technically better, they would always admit where the films had strengths. And when they've in their last couple of reviews, with the exception of their Ghostbusters review, which I thought was like one of the best ones out there, they did a really good review of the female Ghostbusters movie, which I thought was excellent. But with their last two Star Wars reviews, I thought that they really just they really didn't go that deep into what's going on with those films on a storytelling level. Because I think if you like The Force Awakens or Last Jedi, or you hate them vehemently, there's shades of gray on both sides of that, and you can really dissect the films in interesting ways and come at them from 1,000 angles, and they don't really do that. They just kind of ride the line in a safe way.
Well, I think they perhaps, and again, I haven't seen the videos, but I think it's possible they just do that because everybody else is doing the same thing. So why retread familiar territory?
Well, I think the problem, too, is that their videos are no longer the only ones doing that. Like, obviously, when they started out...
Especially with Star Wars.
Well, yeah, when they started out with the Phantom Menace review, that was completely new. Now you can find a dozen hour-long Star Wars reviews on YouTube easily.
But that's one of the only things that stuck with me from Red Letter Media is the opening line. Star Wars The Phantom Menace is the biggest disappointment in my life since my son.
I love that so much.
That's like the only thing I remember.
I can understand why.
But yeah.
I mean, even disregarding the rest of you, that line is just so perfect. It's so sleazy and it's so funny, but
it just sets the tone for that entire channel.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I kind of want to, when I do my video essay, I want to impress is that I think the debate, while it is frustrating at times, and while I think there's a lot of bad faith on both sides, I think it's fun. Like, I legitimately love watching people just bash Star Wars The Last Jedi for an hour, even though I don't agree with a word they're saying. It's just because it's making people think interestingly and have interesting things to say. And I love just listening to the internet. Like, of all the things that the internet should be going after right now, this is a great way to just get the energy out. You know what? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many problems in the world. Like, I kind of appreciate that this is just something that's almost a lighthearted way to do it, even though people who are making these arguments obviously don't feel that way. Maybe I'm just enjoying the splash zone a little too much, but...
Well, yes and no. It for the most part, should be lighthearted, but some people take it too far and attack. Like, look at the thing with Kelly...
Kelly Marie. Well, that's the thing.
Marie Tran, yes. People go too far. And that's what I think is dangerous.
Here's the thing. I had a good analogy for how to approach situations like this, because no matter who you are on the internet, there's always going to be a section of people, especially if there's something notable about you, there's always going to be a small section of people that want to make your life miserable, that want to go out of their way to torture you, and even there's just trolls that want to just get a rise out of you. And it's really hard to tell how big that is relative to you, because if 100 people go after you, you're gonna feel it. If 1,000 people go after you, you're really gonna feel it. But that doesn't necessarily represent any sort of massive trend. Like 1,000 people on the internet going after one person is enough to overwhelm that person, but it doesn't. There are hundreds of millions of people online. So when harassment campaigns happen, I'm obviously against them, but I'm always a little bit like, to what degree is this happening? Because it's never entirely clear, and there are a lot of people that immediately jump on like the bandwagon of, I got crap on the internet and therefore like bad things have happened to me. But obviously with Kelly Marie Tran, I feel immense sympathy because she clearly felt chased off the internet. And
yeah, there's a difference between getting crap and having your identity attacked.
Yeah, and she doesn't deserve it for people not liking your character. That's a weird leap in logic to make. I mean, you don't have to like her character in The Last Jedi or Daisy Ridley's character Rey, but obviously the people that actually are going after them, they're crossing a line, and that's not acceptable.
Yes. And that's exactly what it boils down to. People need to stop mixing movies with real life.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't know how much I've talked about this online, but I have this theory that movies have become the last shared experience in modern life. That in the modern world where all of society is fracturing, where you go back 50 years ago, everyone goes to the same church. Everyone watches the same 3 television stations. Everyone goes to the same school. Nowadays, everyone's connected to the internet. No one watches the same television shows. No one believes in the same things politically, spiritually, or anything really. The only thing we have in common are the fact that we go to the movies. So movies become a bigger deal in that world. Especially when everything else is just getting more aggressive and more ideological constantly. Like, you turn to the one thing that you still have in common, and that's the fact that everyone goes to see Star Wars. That's why something like Star Wars becomes a big deal.
I think it's one of many things that people bond over in mass.
But I think in this age though,
you can look at like YouTube videos, popular YouTube videos. Like people, there are things that circulate and are shared by almost universally.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the case that something like Gangnam Style was like that, but I don't think you share it in the same way you share like a belief in something, like something that means something fundamentally to the core of your being. Like those things are getting harder and harder to find in terms of shared social experience nowadays.
But that's I think that inherently is a problem. If people are making Star Wars a core of their being, then they're setting themselves up to feel personally attacked if people either like or dislike that part of them.
Exactly.
People need to take a step back.
Well, part of it's just, as I said, I think part of it's just inevitable about how messed up modern life is. I don't know where the future goes from here, but it's possible it gets a lot worse. But like I don't see a situation like well think about like just how much discussion goes into not even Star Wars entirely, but like any major movie like that, like the Avengers. People are still talking about Black Panther and Infinity War, like months later, because obviously everyone went and saw those 2 movies. Everyone went and saw Star Wars. Like these last few things are like some of the last elements of shared culture that are really left out there.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I think it's a bit of an overstatement to say it's the only remaining universal shared experience.
But
it is a major one.
I would wager that it's one of the last. Maybe it's not the only one, but it's one of the few that at least can't be considered like a fraction of the population. Like if I join a political party, I can be certain maybe 20 to 30% of the population agrees with me, but that's still not a shared human experience beyond a group, I guess like a marginal group.
Well, I mean, look at something like is The Big Bang Theory still the most popular show on television?
It's about to be canceled, but functionally.
Well, yes, but I mean, there's millions of people that watch that. Now, granted, it's a slightly more narrow demographic than those that go to see Star Wars. But my point remains: there are a number of things that people share on an almost universal level. I don't disagree that the movies may be the biggest one and the most popular, but I don't think shared experiences are dying out completely.
We can agree to disagree on the degree to which that's true, but I would still make the case.
Sure. That's fair. That's.
But yeah, internet. That's how you disagree with someone over something that you don't agree with.
Listening internet.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Moral of the podcast: just calm down.
Just don't. Just don't, internet.
Yeah, before you write that comments to insert celebrity here, just think for a second. Who cares?
Before you find the video of someone whose opinion about Star Wars you disagree with, and as you're typing horrible words about the Jews and furries and pedophiles
and Jewish furry
pedophiles, you just remember, just don't even. Just literally don't even right now.
But no, I'm serious. Actually, like, think for a second. Why do you think people need to hear what you have to say before you send anything? Just think that.
I don't know if I'd say that, but.
and if you're thinking it's for just a couple of people, then just send it to those couple of people. Not everybody needs to hear what you have to say.
I would just say, just try to put yourself in their shoes. Try to don't just lash out at someone for a different opinion. But
well, that too. I mean, there's a number of things that people need to keep in mind that seemingly they don't.
How many comments do you believe below this are just gonna say gay?
In this video?
Gay, retard, Jew, furry, pedophile.
Well, I mean, if it's the same number of people that tell me that in real life, then you're gonna get some traffic.
And that's a good place to stop. Thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been a while. But,
my pleasure. Yeah, glad it finally happened.
But yeah, definitely get some sleep. You've earned it.
Thanks.
All
I will.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.